What's going on, hockey fans? Peter from YHH here. Wanted to introduce our first guest of the NHL draft season. It is 6'6" defenseman Jacob Rombach. Jacob is the number 42 ranked North American skater according to NHL Central Scouting. He's a defenseman with the Lincoln Stars. Wonderful conversation with Jacob. He's a true gentleman, a true pro. We talked about growing up in Spring Lake Park and avoiding playing basketball, even though Grandpa and Dad played collegiate basketball. Jacob ended up on the ice. We talked about how he made the transition from high school to the USHL, the success the Lincoln Stars have had this season, what went into his decision to attend the University of Minnesota, a fight with fellow Minnesotan Liam Hoopka in the USHL, kind of his welcome to the USHL moment. It was a great conversation with Jacob. Hope you enjoy.
And we are very excited to welcome to our new studio, which is still in progress. Thankfully, the cameras don't show the piles of random jerseys and the fact that we have no chairs and the fact that our honored guests here are sitting on a bucket and a camp chair. Jacob Rombach. Jacob, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you, number one, because you're the tallest person on my list of future NHL draft picks to talk to. What's it like being so tall?
Yeah, it's awesome. Obviously, everyone comes up to you and asks you, how tall are you? Are you playing basketball? And then I end up saying that I'm playing hockey, and they're like, well, you should be using your height for basketball. But I would say it's working out pretty well for me.
Do they not know that you're among Central Scouting's top defensive prospects? Do they not know that?
I guess they don't.
You got to let them know, Jacob. Be like, check Central Scouting, guys. There's a reason I don't play basketball. That's a good segue, though, because I do want to ask you, your dad played basketball at Beloit and at Lewis University in the early 90s, and your grandpa Norbert, hell of a name, by the way, played ball at Xavier, which I think everybody knows Xavier, in the mid-50s. So how did you avoid playing basketball coming out of a round ball family?
Obviously, growing up in the state of hockey, all of your friends are growing up playing hockey, and I just followed them. And once you get into it, I fell in love with the game, so stuck with it. And actually, growing up, I was a Blackhawks fan. I wasn't a Wild fan.
Gross.
Because my dad's from Illinois. So I grew up watching like Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, and they were really good at the time. So
you got wrapped up in Blackhawk mania. That's really interesting. I think there's a generation of my generation. I loved Jeremy Roenick and Brian Leetch, and that was from the World Cup of Hockey team in 1996 that beat Canada, and it was this big deal for USA Hockey because it was the first time that Team USA asserted itself against the Canadians. But it feels like your generation is really, really attached to Patrick Kane.
Yeah.
When did you become a Patrick Kane fan? Do you remember how old you were when you watched him on TV with his straight stick blade? And you're like, I love that guy.
I think it was like 2013. Where was it? Yeah, 2013. So I think I was, 5 years old.
About 5 years old. Did you have a Patty Kane jersey?
I had a Jonathan Toews jersey. Actually, I was more of a fan of him at the time, but obviously my older brother had a Patrick Kane jersey.
What's your older brother's name?
Ethan.
Ethan. Shout out to Ethan. I hope you watch this someday, Ethan. So Jonathan Toews and Patty Kane, but you ended up as a defenseman. When did you take your first shift on the blue line? And were you bitter that you were on defense and not at forward?
I would say actually I was a little bitter. I think it was like my first year of squirts. It's like I'm super young and it's like, oh wow, you're getting switched at a young age. But I was like, because I played forward like 4 years of mites, and then I played most of squirt that year forward, and then at the end of that year I got switched back, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm pretty good at it. And I always liked playing defense, so I was like, I would play center, so I'd be two-way.
Okay. You'd be a Selke type guy when you played forward.
Yeah.
All right. You grew up in Spring Lake Park. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like Spring Lake Park, there's a bit of a little brother complex when it comes to your neighbors, Centennial and Blaine. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
There's always battle going up against Blaine and Centennial. It's awesome. Mostly Blaine, I would say, for my group at least.
So what is it about Blaine that makes you just hate them so much?
Just the rivalry building up over the years, and yeah, just every time you play against them, you just want to destroy them.
Were there any coaches in your early days playing for Spring Lake Park that you feel were really influential in your career?
I would say, I would say Chris Luke was my defense coach, helped me with my defense, and Scott Lichter, growing up, was my band coach that helped me get to where I am.
Gotcha. The Caden is Lichter's son,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And then Brock has got to be Chris's son.
Yes.
All right, there we go. We're connecting names here. We're building a little family tree.
Yeah.
What were some of your best memories growing up in the Spring Lake Park program? Because I just mentioned it's got a little brother complex, but it also feels like a youth association that gets kind of forgotten in the North Metro sphere. Tell me a little bit about Spring Lake Park.
Yeah, it's Spring Lake Park. Most of us actually live in Blaine, but then since the way the lines are drawn, we end up going to Spring Lake Park High School. But yeah, some of my best memories were actually Pee Wee A. We made it to state.
Yes.
That was awesome. It was one of the best experiences.
What year was that?
I don't know. The year is my first year of Pee Wee's, though.
Your first year Pee Wee, so that would have been...
Because then we switched up to Double A the next year.
Ooh.
Because that's when, because high school, Spring Lake Park's Double A, so we wanted to play against all those teams.
Okay. I suppose you would rather go, 500 against a Double A schedule than go to state as a single A program.
Yeah, the way I thought of it was I want to play against the best competition. So. Yeah.
Okay. So Pee Wee A State, and we can't quite pin down what year that was. 2015 maybe?
2015?
No, it couldn't have been. You would have been 8 years old.
Yeah, no. Wait, so
2020? 2019, 2020?
I think it was like 2019.
2019, okay.
2018, 2019, I have no clue.
Know. We'll smash our brains together and we'll figure it out eventually. We'll get some old box scores and we'll see how the Panthers... How did you guys do?
What year? At state?
When you went to state?
When we went to state? Yeah, we lost both our games.
You went 0-2 barbecue, huh?
Yeah. We didn't finish last, though. We finished 7th.
How is that possible?
Because another team got swept. And it was actually Rogers who we played the entire year. We would always lose to them. And then in the standings, we finished above them.
Is there a rivalry between you guys and Rogers, too?
That Pee Wee A year, yes, because every time we played them, it would be we'd just always lose them. Like, we saw them at districts, and we saw them at regionals.
Okay.
And luckily, they took 2 teams.
Yeah, I suppose.
We would always be the second one.
It split the talent in half, right? Mm-hmm. So growing up in Spring Lake Park, I asked you this off camera, but I think it's important to touch on Spring Lake Park, at least in the last couple of years, because Spring Lake Park had a really good group just come through. Yeah. But it feels like 2 or 3 or even 4 of them got picked off and ended up going to Totino, which is the local private school or parochial school. When you were coming up, did you think about going to Totino at all? Was there a draw to maybe put together kind of a super team in the North Metro, or were you Spring Lake Park all the way?
No, I was Spring Lake Park all the way. All of my buddies went to Spring Lake Park, and I just wanted to stick with them. I wasn't really thinking about going anywhere else because most of my close friends did go to Spring Lake Park and stayed. So.
Okay, you weren't worried about development or anything? You didn't fall into the trap of, well, we'll develop you. And this isn't unique to Totino, but I think sometimes private schools put the screws on kids saying, we'll develop you here, and you won't get developed there. You weren't worried about that, though.
Well, obviously, you're thinking about development, but I knew I was going to develop at Spring Lake Park. I knew I was going to play a lot. I would have all the opportunities. And when we ended up playing Totino Grace, they're a great team. It was a close game. So.
Okay. And that was the big thing for you was playing time, huh?
Yeah, obviously, going into some high schools, like if you play at some top ones and you come in as a young kid, you don't get to play as much. But going into Spring Lake Park, I knew I was going to play a lot. And playing a lot, you're going to develop. Obviously, that helped me because it led me to Lincoln then.
Do you think that if you'd gone to a more traditional power and you did have to ride the bench or, God forbid, play junior varsity, do you think you would have had the opportunity to move on to Lincoln?
I don't know if I would have had the opportunity to move on to Lincoln like at 16, but I think it would have come along the way. But, yeah, super grateful for my opportunities.
Yeah, you're naturally talented enough where you think you would have ended up on a USHL roster, just maybe not as soon as you did getting the type of playing time at Spring Lake Park.
I think so, with my mindset and determination. But, yeah, I feel like I was an under the radar player, but then I still ended up getting there. So
you were under the radar until you shot up to be about 6'6", right?
Yeah, yep.
All of a sudden, this helmet sort of pops up above the rest of them. You go, "Oh, who's that kid? Oh, he can move forward without falling down. All right, he's 6'6". We'll take him." Playing as a youth player, you don't get to use your size much until bantams.
Yes.
And you said you moved back to D in squirts. Was that hard for you at some point when you were bigger than the other kids, thinking, I could pile drive you into the glass right now, but I can't do it because I'm a peewee?
Yeah, it was a little bit because then obviously being a bit bigger guy, even if you would like touch someone and they would fall, they would just call it a penalty. So
Yeah.
it'd be kind of annoying in that aspect growing up, but obviously I'm good now.
Did it ever make you feel like a bully?
No.
No, not at all. Did you take a lot of penalties as a kid then?
No, I stayed out of the box
Okay.
most of the time, but occasional penalty like that, like just trying to rub someone out and they end up falling, and then I'm obviously mad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems to be a trend throughout your career because I don't think you had a lot of penalty minutes this past year in Lincoln either.
No, I think most of my penalties, I didn't take too much, but it piled up because I got in a fight, and then I think like at the end of a game I got in a little roughing match.
Ah, okay.
So like I don't know if when you look at them, if they add up to a lot. But
Well, it definitely adds to it because if
Yeah.
you're thinking of penalties only in terms of a 2-minute minor,
yeah,
then you're looking at a total and you're thinking, geez, how many minor oh, you factor in an end of the game 2 and a 10 because you get
Yes.
the misconduct and that helps the number.
yeah. I
climb pretty
remember
steadily.
there's like one game, a guy, it's the final seconds, a guy just comes at me, and I'm just like defending myself.
Yeah.
I end up with like 12 minutes in the box and the score sheet at the end of the game.
Do you remember who it was?
It was against Sioux City. I don't know. I don't remember the player.
If you did remember the player, would you tell us?
I don't know. Maybe. Probably not though.
No. We'll
But I
keep
don't
it
know who the
secret.
player is.
I got you. Sioux City, though. I mean, that,
Yeah, Sioux City.
Okay, we'll mark that down. Sioux City likes to
And
pick
that's
on
where I got
Jacob
my
Rombach.
fight actually, too.
In Sioux City.
Yeah.
Who did you fight?
Hupka, Liam Hupka. Their captain.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Yeah, well, that was my first fight. I thought I did pretty good for my first one.
Was
And
it a clear
he's
winner?
experienced. He got a couple good ones, but it wasn't like a clear winner though. No.
Okay. And he was a captain this past year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the experience, you just mentioned that. You got picked to go to a USA National Select Camp. Was it 15s or 16s?
I made the 16s and 17s. Didn't make the
16s and 17s. And that's where I first noticed you because I saw a player from Spring Lake Park going to a national camp. You know, that's a big deal. So I reached out to Connor Gagnon. It's Gagnon, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to make sure I get his pronunciation right. And I reached out to him because I was curious about this kid from Spring Lake Park who is super, super tall but kind of under the radar because he played for the Panthers. Was that a moment where you got to the USA Select Camp and you thought, were you nervous? Did you know you could skate with those guys? How did you feel?
Yeah, I was actually coming up because I believe 40 man for the NTDP was before that. Is it 16s here or is it
The
17s
tryout
here?
for the NTDP's got to be before HP's.
Oh yeah, it's 16s year. Oh yeah.
Yep.
So before the 16s camp, I went to 40 man, and
Okay.
I feel like going against those guys, I really like established myself. Like I feel like playing against those guys, like I can play at this level. I can
Yeah.
play with these guys, and I feel like that drove my confidence going into 16s camp, and then obviously making the 5 Nations too.
Were you intimidated going to the NTDP camp? Because you're surrounded by the best, 40 guys in your age group.
Yeah, I would say I was really nervous going into it, and looking back on it, I can't be nervous. Like that just makes you end up playing a little bit worse. But yeah, seeing those top guys like LJ Mooney, just all those like highlights, like growing up and seeing that, and then going up against them.
Oh man, he was the shit for a little while. I love LJ. I think LJ's a super creative player. I mean, he moves the puck like a magician.
Mm-hmm.
But has he topped 5'6" yet?
He's like, what is he?
5'7", maybe.
I know he's topped that.
Okay.
I know he has.
But he's still kind of
Yeah,
he's
still
a
pretty
smaller
small.
guy, right? Was there a moment during the NTDP camp where you not a significant, what's the word I'm looking for? We might have to
like spot where you think you could play with them.
Yeah,
or
like an individual isolated moment where you laid somebody out or you made a great pass or you scored a goal or something that you thought, okay, I'm here.
I remember the game. It was because at the camp you end up playing against like the 17s from the year before, so you're playing a
Okay.
USHL team, and I feel like when we got to scrimmage against them, that's when I really noticed that. Well, I can play at this level.
You thought, okay, the game is slowing down just enough for me where I can see what's going to happen and you don't feel overwhelmed at all.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then going into the national camp, you were able to carry some of that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got to the 16-17 national camp, were you just like, I got this.
No,
My
no,
bags
no,
are at
no,
the
no.
hotel. My sticks are taped. I'm good.
No. Obviously, going into it, you're still a little nervous because growing up in Minnesota, you don't really know all of the guys that play Tier 1 around the country, and all of those
Right.
guys end up knowing each other, actually. So you got to
That's
kind
true.
of make your way and make new friendships there.
Yeah, it feels like the Tier 1 kids and the argument from Minnesota diehards is that, well, you won't have the relationships if you play Tier 1 hockey. But the group chats between kids that play Tier 1 and show up at all the same showcases, I bet those group chats and those Snapchat groups, I bet they're on fire all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Are you in a couple of those group chats?
Yeah, growing up I was. Obviously, those group chats have died down, but
Were you a big contributor to the group chats, or are you more of a passive observer?
passive observer. So, yeah.
All right, we won't dive into the group chat too much. I'm sure there's some juicy details in there. You end up leaving Spring Lake Park 1 year or 2 years early.
I left after my sophomore year.
Left after your sophomore year. How difficult was that? Because you've already said that the Spring Lake Park guys were some of your best friends. You're leaving home for the first time. What was your thought process going into that decision?
Yeah, my thought process going into that was just my development. I thought that going to the USHL, going against bigger, stronger, faster players was going to help me develop more, get to the next level, eventually play college hockey, and hopefully make it to the NHL someday.
Did you have a mentor or a confidant that you were able to talk to about the process, or were you kind of out on an island?
When I was there, I would try to watch Adam Cleaver. So he was in my position the year before. He was drafted last year, second round.
Yeah.
And I would try to watch him and pick up a little things that he would do.
Okay.
Try to add it to my game.
I checked in with Connor about how you handled the process of leaving early.
Yeah.
And he said you were a total pro about it. You were in contact with him the whole time. You kept him
Yes.
in the loop. You did not go dark on him and then all of a sudden pop up at Lincoln's main camp. Was that important to you to keep him in the loop? Because there's, in my mind at least, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about that. And it
Yes.
sounds like you chose the right way.
Yeah, I feel like letting your coach know all the details is, you got to pay them some respect because they're trying to build a team for next year, and you got to let them know that there is a possibility that I'm not going to come back to Spring Lake Park. So just keeping them in the loop, I feel, is really big.
And was he supportive pretty much the whole time?
He was really supportive of me.
Okay, that's big of him. That's a really magnanimous thing to do because you would be a player to build around. Like I'm assuming you would have been a captain for 2 years.
Yeah, I was nominated captain actually.
See, so you're a player that he would have built around, but the fact that he was able to sort of let you leave the nest and spread your wings, that says a lot about Connor.
Yeah, and he knew that it was going to be a challenge for me at first, but he knew that was going to be the best path for me.
And you had a great role model. You just mentioned
Yes.
Adam Cleaver. So now I'm curious, the little things. What were some of those little things that you picked up from Adam?
Yeah, just watching his skating, watching his shot, watching him on retrievals, I would say was a big part because I feel like going into the USHL your first year, the speed difference in the forecheck, it's more structured, just all the little details. I was a PK guy. We would both go out there just watching, like, getting the puck down 200 every time, being in the shot lane, and, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, please.
No, I'm done. I'm done. I'm good.
I got it. I checked in with a friend of mine who's in the NHL personnel nebulous, and he mentioned your penalty killing. That was the first thing he said was really good on the PK. When did you become so good on the PK? Was that a skill that you've had since you were a youth player? Or was it something you developed in high school? Was it a role that Lincoln handed off to you and you just took full advantage of it?
I think it's just obviously using my big body to block shots, and I'm willing to block shots. I like when you block a shot and then the bench goes crazy, you get a 200-foot clear, and you're helping your team out. And I feel like, growing up, because I've always been a bigger guy, take up more of the ice on the PK. I feel like I've always been mostly in that situation, so I've been able to develop it over the past couple of years.
And if you can do this, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but if you can be on the PK, that says to an NHL team, you can play in all situations. So even if you end up on a team and you might be the 7th D, which is no small feat, it's the NHL for crying out loud, have a specialty. I mean, if you can be a lockdown PK guy, teams will find a spot if you're 6'6" and a lockdown PK guy.
Yes. So hopefully that would be the best case scenario. Obviously making to the NHL, so just gotta see where my journey takes me.
Yeah, Adam, I would imagine, was also probably a pretty good influence on you
Yes.
because he went through the whole.
I lived with him too.
You lived with him.
Yes.
So what did you learn from him about the draft process? Because he went through the interviews and he went to the combine and he he went to the draft, didn't he? So he's been through all this before. What did he impart upon you as you make your way through the process?
Yeah, obviously you would just see him after like practices because NHL teams throughout the year, and then you would have like Zoom calls. You'd go out for some dinners, and it would be cool to see that because it's cool to see when someone's like chasing their dream and that ends up becoming a reality. And I was always super supportive of him. I was like, you got to believe you're going to go first round. I thought he could have go. I believe he could have gone first round last year. I was like, after our last game of the season, super excited to see where you go, and hopefully you can go first round.
Yeah, you remind me a little bit of Adam, by the way, off the ice, because I watched his interview that he did with Buffalo. Buffalo did a behind-the-scenes thing at the Combine, and he did the interview with Buffalo. Super polished, complete sentences, looked Kevin Adams in the eye. He spoke clearly. He spoke really well. So you've taken after him.
Oh, thank you.
In a different way. We've locked eyes this whole time. Yeah. Congratulations. You're not looking above my head at a jersey. Let's talk a little bit about Lincoln, the coach of the year, Rocky Russo, and the general manager of the year, Nick Fabrizio. What is it about Lincoln that sets it apart from other USHL franchises in terms of management?
I would just say, like, Rocky's standard throughout the year, like, our standard was we know we have a good team. We know, like, going into each game, we should win. Like, that was our mentality, and just holding everyone accountable. Like, in film session, it's, like, can't feel sorry for yourself. You got to learn from your mistakes, and, yeah, just got to keep learning from it, and he's going to hold you accountable. He might, like, let you know, obviously, but he's doing it because he cares. So that's just the biggest thing.
How many times have you been on the wrong end of an ass chewing by Rocky?
I don't know. I've been on a few times, obviously, because no one's perfect in the game, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd say a couple times, especially in my first year when figuring out our team wasn't the best, but
yeah. But you guys seemed to really pick up as the season went on. You guys got into your lane, and you guys were fantastic. Was there a moment during the season where you thought, okay, it's a possibility that we might be battling late in the Clark Cup playoffs?
To be honest, going in from last year, I knew a ton of guys were going to be back. Okay. Like, we had 70 return, and I just knew that we were going to be a great team. But then once we went on, like, our, 10-plus game winning streak after Christmas, I knew, like, yeah, we got a chance.
Having 7D come back, was that a good thing for you? Because 7D coming back, that's great for the team. It's great for Rocky. Is it great for Jacob Rombach?
It was kind of weird at the start because we would just roll 7D, and it was kind of weird. We ended up having someone request a trade out, which ended up at opening ice time for like 6 of us, and then we would filter in the 7th. But yeah, everything ended up working out perfectly, I feel like.
Trades in the USHL, I think, are something that gets overlooked a lot. Yeah. And for some guys, it really is their first introduction to hockey as a business. Mm-hmm. Was that what it was like for you when somebody asked for a trade?
Yeah, I was like, I still remember going into Lincoln's training camp, and I was like, yeah, you're battling for your spot. You got to beat out these other guys. And then after Pittsburgh, we ended up trading someone. Like, they didn't request a trade. They got traded.
Okay.
That's when you realize it's a business. It's not just. Yeah.
Was that hard, having somebody be traded right out from under you?
Yeah, it was kind of hard, obviously, but I was young. I was new to it, so I was like, I guess this is the league. This is what's going to happen going forward, especially in professional hockey. So
yeah, I'll say now you got to get used to it.
Yeah,
because there's only going to be more transitioning, even in college with guys transferring.
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to have to get used to saying goodbye. It's so sad to say you're going to have to get used to saying goodbye a lot more, Jacob.
I know, it's kind of weird. So luckily, moving away has helped. Because usually, like, the tier 1 guys, or the guys that go to Shack, they move away at like 14.
Oh yeah.
So then every year that they're with new players and all of that. Like, I grew up playing with the same like 15 guys my entire life.
Those goodbyes are probably harder.
Yeah, those ones are hard.
Than the kids from the Chicagoland area that are with Windy City one year, and then they're with Mission the next year, and then they're with TI, and then they move to Shattuck, and that's a lot of quarter zips, man. It's a lot of quarter zips and joggers.
Yeah.
Now, playing style, defensive defenseman.
Yes.
Okay, defensive defenseman. Do you take a lot of pride in that? Because it feels as though the professional hockey, and I'm thinking of Cale Makar specifically, everybody has started to look for their Cale Makar, their puck rusher who goes 200 feet, the point guard, the yada, yada, yada. But do you take a lot of pride in being a quote-unquote defensive defenseman?
Yes, I take. Yeah, I feel like that. I know my role on a team. I know like what I'm gonna do. I'm obviously not gonna be this guy that produces a lot of points. Trying to working on my shot in this off season and getting stronger. So then hopefully I can tee up some like flappers from the point, maybe get a couple more goals, get them on net. But yeah, I focus on my defense game first, closing plays fast and getting the puck up to the forwards. I'll try to join the rush as a second wave.
Okay. You're a good enough skater to join the rush.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the playoffs for the NHL, it feels a lot like teams like Vegas and Florida. They're almost proving that you belong in the league because they rely so much on big body defenders who play physically and block shots. So when you're watching the NHL playoffs, are you silently rooting for Vegas and Florida?
Yeah, obviously it's cool to see like players like you are being played way more in playoffs, and obviously they're doing really well. But yeah, it's just cool to watch the playoffs.
Yeah. Who do you think's going to win this year?
Yeah, I want Edmonton to win.
You want Edmonton to win. Okay.
McDavid needs a Stanley Cup to like say he's like one of the best players of all time. I feel like obviously he is one of the best players of all time, but I feel like if he gets a Stanley Cup, it's going to add to that. Hopefully, he can get some more in the future.
He needs it on his resume, right? It's like having a really, really good internship before you get your first big job.
Yes, he needs a Stanley Cup.
He needs a Stanley Cup. So does Draisaitl. You could make that argument too.
Yes.
Boy, they're a lot of fun to watch.
I thought they were gonna win it last year. I thought they were gonna pull out the reverse sweep, and yeah.
Did you watch any of the Amazon series?
I did not, but I saw like clips going on Instagram, like big like dig in the finals.
Yeah, and when the Edmonton equipment manager, I think, had to shut the curtain on the Amazon cameras,
yeah.
That was a little awkward for everybody, I felt like.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any film crew following you around in Lincoln?
Didn't really have like a film crew.
You guys had a social media team.
Yeah, we had a social media team that was really good, I feel like. And yeah, I would do some interviews with them throughout the year. But it was really cool when we played at Waterloo in playoffs, like everything college hockey came out to like record and interview a couple guys.
Wow, you just shouted out the competition for us.
Oh, sorry, that's my bad.
That's all right. Thanks, Jacob. That's actually something I would like to ask you about. Everything college hockey, are they super popular among your group?
I would say because I just like watching like the clips that they post. Sometimes like the highlights. Don't really like focus too much on it, but yeah, everyone knows. I feel like in the league who they are.
They've gained some notoriety after being in it because they've been around for a few years now, I think.
Yes. I don't know how many followers they have, but
I couldn't tell you. I could tell you that we have over 100,000 followers across all social platforms.
good.
Yeah.
There we go.
And I'm sure we'll have more after
Yes, you
publishing this interview. But we're not quite done yet. You're not out of here just yet. Committed to the University of Minnesota, what was it about the Golden Gophers that set them apart from everybody else?
Just so once I stepped on the campus, I felt like this is the place I want to be. Obviously, in Minnesota, it's growing up. You want to go to Minnesota. You want to go to a team in Minnesota, and obviously the U is the best spot. But I did open my options to everyone. But then, right when I stepped on University of Minnesota's campus, I was like, this is where I want to play. And obviously, their history of developing defense is unbelievable. So.
Yeah. I was going to say the best advertisement for the University of Minnesota is probably Brock Faber signing a massive extension.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
It shows you that anything is possible.
Yes.
Who else would you have considered if it wasn't the University of Minnesota? What other I'm going to phrase that in a better way. What other program that you looked at really impressed you?
I would say Western Michigan, Quinnipiac, Colorado College, and St. Cloud.
St. Cloud.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went. Yeah. So those were my choices. But then once I stepped on Minnesota, I was like, this is the spot where I want to be.
This is where I want to go. Were you always a University of Minnesota fan growing up?
I was a little bit, but this is weird because, again, with my dad growing up in Illinois, being a Blackhawks fan, my mom went to the University of Wisconsin. I know. So,
no. Josh, what are you doing? Making the W?
The W.
Jossie is an alumnus of the program. at the University of Wisconsin, so we won't hold that against her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I could see that because it feels like the University of Wisconsin draws a lot from the Chicagoland area, especially among athletes.
And my mom grew up in Wisconsin, Waterford, so all of my grandparents, they root for University of Wisconsin. They're like,
okay,
I'll wear a Gopher jersey for hockey, but for every other sport, I'm gonna be Wisconsin.
But I'm not happy about it, Jacob. Well, I think you made the right choice personally.
Yeah.
You know, being a Golden Gopher fan. From your perspective as a player, where do you think the college game is headed? Because the NCAA has obviously been turned upside down by the transfer portal and by NIL. So I'm just curious to get your perspective as a recruit who's not yet on campus. What does it look like to you? Does it look like just a chaotic mess? Does it look like there's more power for players at this point?
I feel like the college hockey is just going to get better. Obviously with CHL too, you didn't talk about that, but I'm going to bring that in because you see all these guys, like top players from CHL signing to end up playing at like Michigan and all. So it's just going to make the college hockey even better, and you like to see that because then you're going to be able to go against. I like playing against the top competition, so I feel like seeing those guys come over, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I saw Malcolm Spence just committed to Michigan.
Yes.
He's a really, really good player.
Yeah.
I love that attitude, man, because it feels like for people that are either in my generation or a little bit older, there's a lot of poo-pooing college hockey and the CHL shouldn't be here. They're taking spots from American kids, but you're far more like, no, bring it on. If I could play 100 Connor McDavids, I'd play 100 Connor McDavids.
Yeah, that would obviously be really hard, but yes.
You'd like the challenge, though,
I'd like
right?
the challenge. I'd like to see.
Are you the type of person that takes on challenges just to take them on? Like, do you do Rubik's Cubes for fun?
No, I don't do like Rubik's Cubes, but like when it comes to something that I like and something like a sport that I love, 100%.
Okay.
Like going at Holinka, going against like Schaefer, McKenna, like
Ooh,
all of
okay.
those guys that are like gonna be first rounds. Like their team was full of first rounds. I love going against that. See how I matched up against them.
Who do you think's better, Schaefer or McKenna? Seeing as those are the two names you brought up.
Those are like the
very different players.
Yeah, very different players. So it's like I feel like, and obviously Schaefer hasn't played this year, so he hasn't.
I know it's tough.
It's tough, but he's obviously gonna be first overall. But I would say Evan McKenna has had more hype, so I think I'm gonna go over him because of his age, and I feel like
that's true.
But yeah, two different players, so I'm not gonna put one over the other. But
I got
cool
that
to
was
see.
a little bit of a trap question there for you. Yeah, back to the USHL for a second. Seeing as we're talking about players, was there a player in the USHL where you went up against him and you thought, okay, this guy is for real. This is a legit NHL prospect?
Yeah, obviously the team has. Can I do someone on my team?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bruno Egan from he joined our team halfway through the year, and yeah, he was just lighting it up. It was actually unbelievable.
His name's Bruno Egan?
His first name's Bruno. It's kind of hard to pronounce his last name because he's Croatian. But yeah, he came in. I think first he was like a 1.5, like averaging that per game for points. It was just unbelievable to see that.
What made him so good? Was he slippery? Is he fast?
Oh, his shot's unbelievable.
Shot. Okay.
His shot, and he doesn't get bumped off the puck easily.
Gotcha. So if you're looking to up your accuracy on shooting this summer, maybe you should call Bruno.
Yeah, I should call him up. Yeah.
Who is the most underrated player on your team?
On my team, I would say Daniel Schlein or Ethan Weber.
Okay. You played a little bit with Weber, right? You were saying that off
Yes.
camera. You were
Yes.
paired with him for a bit. What makes him so good?
Yeah, I think his ability to keep things simple and his defensive style, I feel like, and he does have an offensive there. Once I feel like he's going to get the opportunity next year being on the power play, I feel like he's going to grow into his role and he's going to be a heck of a player.
What about Daniel?
Daniel Schlein, he's going to Duluth next year. It's going to be fun to play against him. Yeah, just seeing his work ethic and just he's always the last one off the ice, staying later in the weight room. You'd always hang out together too, and yeah, he's so skilled. It's just awesome to see.
Those are the guys you got to look out for. The ones that are last out of the weight room, the ones that are last off the ice in practice. Yes. Those are the guys that make it and continue to have a career after just making it, right?
And when you see that, it gives you motivation. Like, you're going to stay out there longer, too.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
and you're going to go to the combine. Speaking of the gym, you're going to the combine. You told me that you can absolutely knock out 8 pull-ups, but you're going to shoot for 10, right?
Yes, I'm gonna shoot for 10. At the Chipotle game, we did testing. I got 8 pull-ups. They're
Okay.
super strict. So if anyone's watching this and saying that they can just rip them out super easily, let's see the form. Make sure the form's good.
Overhand too.
Yes.
Overhand, you got to get the chin over the bar and hold it for a full second, right?
Yes.
Yeah, haters. So you try to do 8 of those and then tell Jacob.
Yeah,
that
I
he's
know
not
there's
doing
some
enough.
people out there that can do that really easily. But
Yeah, that's all right. There's a difference, and we see it a lot with the NFL Combine because the NFL Combine is so popular. There's a difference between guys that are good at working out and guys that are good at playing football. Just like there are hockey players that are good at working out, and there are guys that are good at playing hockey.
yes. So I think going into the combine, you just gotta just be yourself, obviously, and just give it your all. Because mostly, obviously, they want to see that you have some strength, the power, but they also want to see that you have improvement, though. So
And I would argue that the interviews are also
Oh,
equally
100%,
important with the teams
yes.
because you want to leave a good impression on those front offices. Have you done any interview prep? Have you worked one-on-one with anyone to?
I didn't do like any interview prep, but at the start of the year, I would talk with like Rocky, my coach,
Yeah.
talk with my advisors, just actually ask like Blake Montgomery and Tanner Hendricks who did it
Yeah.
the year before, and just they were just saying just be yourself, obviously, and yeah, that'll go a long way.
All right, I think you're going to knock out the interviews. By the way,
Oh, thank you.
you've done a great job today. What are you most looking forward to as the process continues? Are you going to go to the draft?
I'm not gonna go to the draft. I'm
Okay.
gonna have a little draft party at my house, so it should be fun.
All right, if you could be drafted by one team, who would you like it to be?
I'd be grateful to go anywhere.
Grateful to go anywhere. All right, somebody's going to screw that up at some point. I'm going to ask somebody, and they're going to be like, "Oh, I'm playing for Toronto, or I'm not playing for anybody." No, that's the good answers. I'll play for anybody.
Yeah, it's obviously a dream of yours growing up, and it's like, yeah, going to any team, you'd be super grateful,
Okay.
and in any round in the draft, because yeah, wow, it's obviously a heck of an
Yeah.
accomplishment for anyone who gets drafted.
And even if you don't get drafted, I mean, you
Yeah.
will. You should. If you're not, then something is very wrong with the process. But you've always
So
got
let's see.
the next year or signing as an undrafted free agent.
Mhm.
I think we're seeing a lot of guys. I always think of Leighton Road.
Yeah,
Like Leighton Road got to pick where he went,
Mhm.
and that's worked out really well for him. He's
Yeah.
playing super well for Coachella. There's become, I think, a greater appreciation for being a UDFA,
yeah. I feel like being undrafted, you get to pick where you go. So like,
right?
you could have all 32 teams reach out to you and say we want you, and then you get to pick instead of obviously going into the draft they pick you. But
Yeah. Let's end on a fun question. I want to know how close you can get closer to the hole here. I found a Jacob Rombach autographed hockey card.
Yeah.
I know the price. How much do you think an autographed Rombach hockey card goes for?
I don't really say it's that much. Maybe like
You got to think a little highly of yourself here. Come on.
highly. Like, can I get a little range?
I'll say it's between 20 and 50.
Oh wow, I was gonna go like $5. We'll go 33.
That was close. $29.99.
Ah.
You can own your own card with your own signature for $29.99.
Oh, that's awesome.
Are you going to buy one now?
I don't know. I have a lot of those cards at my house. Not gonna lie.
Maybe I'll buy one. I'll support the cause here.
I'll give you a free one. I got like
I get a free one?
I got like 150 back at my house. So if I ever see you,
Yes. All right. I'm going to drop my deets to you once we hang up here. And then I want that card. I'm going to hang on to it forever. That's Jacob Rombach, the pride of Spring Lake Park, Minnesota. He's going to go to the U next year, and he has done a fantastic job bobbing and weaving with us as we got all the cameras turned on today. Jacob, good luck. Thank you so much for being here.
thank you for having me.